Alright guys, my cat's gonna wake up pretty soon. Oh, he's already up. Oh my god. So we gotta be fast. This is the final part of playlist talking about exploitative play and video play. And we're gonna go over some um, one sim of a hand that just happened. Also just we're gonna use cutoff versus button. Probably the two widest ranges that are not in the blinds to give a perspective on position, and also see how like basically playing exploitatively without actually while disregarding um, you know game theory. It's just basically, if you're winning, you're probably getting all the conclusions from a game theoretic perspective and just misapplying it. I mean, they are all exploits, right? But you're just misapplying the origin of like where they're like actually originating from. So like, say your Latvian friend told you. Secondly, um, here we have a control test actually to show the importance of position, which is what we're going to talk about mostly, by basically switching the ranges between this 30 big blind spot, single raise spot, and guess what? Not much changed. So position trumped similar ranges like 38% versus something like 50 plus percent, something close enough. I don't have the pie open right now with me. So um, again, goes to show it's position is a pretty much like a given in poker. And like I said in my previous video, people talk about position as like, you have more information, you're the last to act, you have more information. Is like this, you can just say it twice, it's so hardcore. You Hell, I don't know, nothing else is actually said. Like then the don't 3-bet out of position as much, don't c-bet out of position as much. Why? Well, kind of like it's very awesome to just check your value range out of position. I'm totally down with that kind of stuff. um, Now what does that affect? Your EV, right? So nobody actually talks about this, yet all exploit people. There's a banner running on you know Shackscope, like max exploit data driven strategies. That's all bullshit. My data for today's tournament, whoever might have taken this exploitative course would have just gotten like the crappiest sample of data. Like the amount of small blind, like chuck in a half big blind I did today was just egregious. And what would they think? Man, this guy's like he just chucks in a bunch of hands from small blind again. And also like pre-flop flop, is the data is way more robust than turn and river. Turn and river having a higher EV you can lose or gain. uh, we already talked about how on the flop, given how sims are built, we just have a sim right here. Why don't we look at that? It's a hand that happens, not the 30 big line. Okay, here it is. It's pretty reasonably well, pretty accurate. So we have in position, you know, is reaching his maximally exploitative strategy versus his actual EV. They're approaching. That's what GTO is. And out of position has 332. Say 333 here. So, I mean, because there's some inaccuracy. The pot 719. It's exploitable for 0.14% of 719. Not to mention, so this same is. Not to mention that this is already like yours. So if you're playing exploitatively, all you're going to be actually able to do is say it's close to 400 and the other guy has got 300. It's just like, I mean, this is starting pot, by the way. get 300 more chips. That's the max you can exploit someone for on the flop, is what the pot's worth. So again, comes down to a bunch of other things, and all of this is like, when I look at is like that this hand was not played at all the way Pio would suggest I should play. So just remember, I have Queen Jack of Spades here, and button is 20 big blinds, and he calls. Okay, so it's a single raise pot. Here's the, well, actually, oh, that's just the upload. Hold up, I closed the range converter. Yeah, that one's uploading. Cool. That's a hand history. We just got fifth. Okay. Well, here it is. My bad. So like, for example, like, oh, this is nice. I didn't even look at this. It's actually giving you like your pre-flop raise and like 3-bet as per you like go out. Anyways, that's cool. It's a cool feature. I didn't even a lot more clarity here too. Obviously, my DPI is a little bit high because I have a huge monitor. Like, look at this example, for example, this like Jack 10 offsuit. If you actually look at cutoffs, big blinds total response, you can see like Jack 10 offsuit is like done at like it's a 1 out of every 4 times you can call, right? But if you actually look at button's calling range, Jack 10 offsuit, it's not really doing too hot. It's actually just 0.01 EV. I'm pretty sure there are hands here that actually, yeah, 676. If you played 40% times, is going to yield you negative EV. That sounds pretty bad. Like King 6 suited, why, man? Like, why would you ever want to do that? I'm sure like at different, like especially at like with deuces here, I can't even like reach it. I mean, it's not going to be that bad. Like, okay, here we saw these are pretty marginal spots. Why would we even like consider a negative EV spot? Or like here, 0.01. What the fuck are we doing here? Well, the thing is, when you're in button at 12% antes, 12.5% antes, you've already given away 0.125 big blinds. So if you net negative 0.01, you actually gained almost most of your ante back. That's quite a significant amount of EV when you consider jamming from certain spots. So if you actually look at jamming, you're just going to duplicate this, and if you look at like a shorter stack where we can just have like an open rip or something, obviously that's not going to happen at 15 big blinds. We're going to find more in 10. So if you look at 10 big blinds, what is this quick nav? Oh, gotta look at all this stuff. And sorry to get rid of my this is 50, I don't know what inch. This is 4K monitor. I think it can have a max resolution of 6K, and like, so I have to like keep things a bit like zoomed in. Anyways, let's say like under the gun goes all in. Okay. Look at what he makes versus with ace jack offsuit. 0.84 big blinds, right? Ace 10, 0.31. But you wouldn't say you would not jam this, right? 8 handed, 12.5 big blinds. Why wouldn't you? 4s as 0.08. So 4s jamming, 5s, 4s jamming actually nets you not 0.123, so like basically $0.12 EV or chip EV. It actually nets you less than that call because you already posted some antis. In fact, yeah, here too you've posted the antis, so it's actually better than that, but not that much, right? But you wouldn't say like here we got get an example. Also, you have to remember the weight is at 50%. So only half the time if you do it. If you start doing it 100% of the time, it's not gonna win you. Zero EV. So the only reason it's in there is because of the high antis. So it's doing actually better than that negative EV spot. It just looks negative EV because we don't consider what we've already put in the part, which is your anti. Like it was worse than this one at least because we're doing it less often. Mostly it's a fold. So anyways, we have these at 30 big blinds. At 10 big blinds, you can just see that like if you jam ace 4 or ace 5 suited, since you have 10 big blinds, your EV is about 0.09 big blinds. Think, and you do it 100% at 100% weight. How many jams would you have to do on average to double up? Multiply by 100, you'll get to 9, right? That's not even your stack, so a bit more because this does include the dead money. So that means you would have to jam this at least 100 times for you to double up with ace 5 suited from under the gun with 10 big blinds. That's how thin this spot is. Now, even ace king offsuit is 2.31 big blinds, so that means it's basically like 1 out of every 4 or something. Ace queen offsuit 1.57. Holy hell, ace jack offsuit. Okay, so here we're doing it at pure weight 0.84. Let's say it's 1 big line. So how many when you have 10 big lines, how many big lines will it take? How many jams will it take for you to reach 10 big lines, which is what double up basically? About 10 jams. And say like versus, because there's so many people behind you, and that's one aspect of position. We all understand that, So anyways, so we have queen jack suited, and where is queen jack suited? Yeah, so perfect. We're up against a first of all, we're not out of position. No, we are out of position. Button call with 20 big blinds. So yes, king jack, king queen are betting. Queen jack is checking, which is fine because out of position value hand check. Yeah, we don't have the right, like he can have some flush draws. That's good. We want to unblock him for flush draws. We check, and he bet 5 into a pot of 7. So this is a bit different. 5 into 7.9. Because I was doing it with big blinds, so he bet 5 big blinds. Okay. What does queen jack suited do? It doesn't raise nothing. It's just a call. Okay. Fine up till now, and we do call. What was the turn? What was the turn? Where I'm gonna have to look at the spot. It was 5 of hearts, I think. Yeah. So we're out of position. We check again. not much combos left in villain's range. And think he checked back, yeah. And this was an 8 of hearts. So out of position with queen jack is basically leading, and it just depends on like it's either jamming or like betting big. I checked. Mr. Villain did go all in. Now think about this, like she checked back or he's betting to be consistent with what we thought he might have, you know. We can't just make his range, 7-9 of diamonds, just collapsing his range or something. We still have to consider what like he would have led that big bet with, and so when he bets, oh wait, there was something interesting with deuces on previous street, I forgot now. Queen jack suited is calling 100%. We did call. Guess what the man had? He had 9-10 of diamonds. So although Pi was just completely saying I should be doing something else, which is basically when he bets, this was fine up till here. It was fine when the 5 came in. Even this was fine. And in position, bet, and no, he checked. Where he's supposed to bet, actually he checked. So people do play, like people play like 10% tighter from all the positions, and when it comes to jamming and like playing short stacks, they're already 10% tighter. So if we start calling with like, we don't have like a good check calling range on the river, and we start calling with like fringe, or start making these hands into 3 street hands, we're gonna just be smacked. What was it? It was an 8 of hearts. And out of position was supposed to bet, and yeah, and he jammed. I called. Where was I supposed to actually bet with queen jack? Yeah, here. It was supposed to bet mostly like 70 to 30. Sort of 10 times, 7 times you bet, 3 times you check, but I opted to check, and I would always do it. The 8 game, he bet all in. Now I have a very strong check calling range. Queen 10 suited. Again, my combo and the heart combo do call. The diamonds kind of brick, make him pair heavy. He can have 2 pairs, whatever. Like, so yep, like, on the flop, if he bet, I'd probably like jam king queen offsuit. Here a6 wants to bluff catch. Maybe in high stakes tournament, maybe a little bit, because people will like be more sophisticated in terms of how they play. They won't go all in with like 18 big blinds. And same with us, we're out of position. This was a donk comment, by the way. Just a low stakes tournament. Got the max out of the player by not just like spazzing out and keeping my range tight on the river, and actually something that I can bluff catch with. However, that's not what we're going to be looking at. So there's another argument: other players are not rational, right? So that's actually like, that's all like borderline like bigot, spelling wrong, I don't know. Like it's bigotry, like to like say someone is like of a less mental agency than you are, on a very fundamental level. especially when you yourself stop right here. You just say people are irrational and they don't make rational decisions. You're basically copying off like what economists say. And when what you know who they are talking about? A fucking economy. Not the 9 players out of which you're gonna be in a hand with one, maybe two, maybe three people. To drive a game to Nash equilibrium versus like one player at least, uh, which is majority of what your hands are gonna be, like significant ones where you have like some, where you can consider overpair value hand across couple streets at least. You can drive the game to GTO. You have, especially when you have position, you have the power to do it by constraining the options that you can give the out position player or any player. Max EV can only be obtained from max exploit. That's true if your max exploit is the correct adjustment. People generally suck at finding the right tendencies to attack and suck even more at actually adjusting to them. So in that hand there's a hand that I did with a like overcard undercard on like a middle card pair queen high board, and found that it's actually much better to have a overcard undercard rather than have a gutter. Now I'm not gonna go over that; it's gonna take too much. Balance for balance sake is always said. Like, this is another argument that people who generally are winning are probably, again, like I said, getting their like conclusions of how to do an exploitative play, probably from like GTO answers, because GTO answers are kind of wacko. Balance for balance sake, this is just stupid. Okay, it's correct, right? But it's to create a difference between two strategies. This is not the right thing to be doing. Population and player tendencies, obviously there's going to be skew here, and if you can't read what a person is doing while you're playing, like some tendencies live on, I delete my data every year, by the way. I keep some on like as backup, but people change, man. Play your hand. Come on, man. Like, that's the worst. Like, play your hand and not your range. So you basically want to teach someone to. So why do we range bet? Why do we range bet small? Like when we range bet, why is it like usually small? Usually you can have a range bet that's actually big. Well, because so that we can fucking bluff, right? Where does this come from? Solver or any solver. So it does make legitimate sense though, right? Okay. I got another thing. It's just fuck GTO. Really. Just okay. Too sophisticated. Now, I'll just show you how simple it is. How it simplifies. This is all this hearsay. Simplifies, yeah. Poker. Because by generalizing, at least the barrier to entry in poker is harder now. It's tougher. So if you could teach someone some general principles that are sound, logical, rational, defensible, and generalize a little bit, yeah, like that will simplify their life. Again, no one plays rationally. Yeah, this one comes again and again. So okay, sure, then you start making, you should take rational decisions, not like irrational decisions. See, like, I don't understand like this half-hearted like explanation. People play irrational. No, they don't. Again, it's economists who try to drive game theory don't are not able to, because they're up against a ton of people. 100 people want to have a dinner. How are you gonna like make a GTO? And we don't even use the actual GTO made by Nash. We try to use the approximate GTO that came years later. And also, difference between GTO applied in the real world, where all of this stuff does come into factor, and what are they talking about? People like with their money. But poker has become sophisticated enough where people can't just say like they're irrational. I mean, even you are, even I am, everyone is. Again, like this max EV is only achievable through max exploit. I'll prove that wrong. Keep it simple. Yeah. Teaching someone to play one hand, one combo differently because of who the opponent is every time, right? You know how much that complicates stuff? How much that strips you of trying to bluff? How much it strips you off from, like, you know, getting max EV actually? Think about it. Try teaching someone. People don't just play one hand from small blind and that's it. Or they don't play. That's principally that's what is being taught by like people who think of exploitative poker like this. There are people, including myself, who look at bio searching for exploits, but there are people who just will never do that. Only or GT only works in high stakes. Holy Jesus, man. Okay, my fifth from today's testament that it doesn't, although I probably did misapply certain spots, especially with like some c-bet on a middling pair board. The middle card was my pair. I think I should have checked, and there's certain spots where I think I got lucky with like people having good hands. Otherwise, you know, my jams were kind of wacko, but they were still defensible. It works in any game. It's just to what degree and how proficient you need to be. The main thing I would say is tilt, not edge passing. In soft games, is criminal. And anyways, there's no GTO, there's no exploitative poker. It's always about the deck, man. It's always about the deck. Now, exploitative framework creates biases. Yeah. But in a game where people already tend to go towards, you know, what is it called? Risk minimization, because of what they previously didn't work out. They try to like switch up, so people are changing. People don't play statically. It makes more assumptions, obviously, because it looks at data that is skewed, and flop being more robust and pre-flop being more robust. Guess what? The pot is smaller. Some of the EV was already yours, so you're basically like for half the starting point. You can maybe have like pure exploits. When you say balance for balance sake, I can just say exploiting for exploiting sake. Absolutely, because that stuff is absolutely. It actually creates bad habits because it doesn't actually. If you don't go and look at stuff in Pio, you're not gonna see what the population tendencies are versus what you actually have the data on, and then like actually visualize it. Does anyone with like 20 big blinds open from cutoff, you know, big blind defense on some like low card board, you see bet small, and the big blind check raises? This guy, if even if he's got like whatever card he has, the board is nothing near, say 8-6-4. Jack 10 offsuit is a slam dunk jam versus that check raise. Nothing gets more gangster than that. That's GTO for you. It disregards basic tenets of poker, which is basically like position, for example, we'll talk about here. Misunderstands GTO. I think that's pretty true. Again, unbalanced for unbalancing. Deck, constraining your strategy versus the deck, what's on the board, what you have, greater than some kind of fucking soul read. It's less appreciative of involvement of chance in the game. Chance is huge. That's why there's bankroll management. Again, misunderstanding of exploits and their worth. Like, people cannot tell me like okay, here on 863 rainbow board, cutoff has some checks, has a lot of checks actually. What is his bet sizing? What should he be betting? Cutoff versus big blind. Well, I know by default his bet sizing should be pot. There you go, I said it. Tactic rather than a strategy. Yep, that's what exploitative poker is. It's kind of like finding a kink in the armor and like going for it. That's not gonna win you the war though. And it's far more complicated to play completely exploitative poker. And with that, let's get on with just explaining position. So I have it. It's right here. Well, no, this is not it. Where is it? This one. Okay, so not many flops, but this is cutoff versus button 30 big blinds. Okay. This is actually so this is just at root hasn't even checked. Default checking frequency is close to 80%. The boards, you will see that we're checking most on like this monotone board, queen 10-10. Remember, even versus big blind on middling card, this is somewhat high, but on middling card like king 8-8, middling card paired board, when the middling card is paired, do not fucking bet, trust me. Jack 5, I thought I saw it and then I lost it. Yeah, Jack 5-3. I was giving someone a coaching session. I told him it's one of the only bets, like C bets, that's really awesome on this board is the queens, because unblock stop pair and get protection versus ace x, king x floating ranges. And then you will see that like stuff that starts to like not check as often is more draw heavy, is more rainbow. And now let's just see what happens when cutoff checks. So you can see that in position now still has a 50% checking, or betting 30%. This is what preferred, because this larger bet sizing, the frequency is pretty low, 7%, and there's nothing, no pot size or nothing. The frequencies are way too low. So this is preferred at like most of the frequency, and this is just again default. So if someone didn't know nothing, you could tell them, you're okay, versus button or in position in general. Like from hijack, this would be pretty valid too. Just check, but on default, just check. Oh, that simplifies their life. However, you can see that the Jack 5-3, which was one of the highest checks for out of position, is one of the lowest checks for in position, because poker is self-consistent. Let's see if what happens if cutoff just bets 30%. So this 30 is not 21, is 30% bet. Look at the folding frequencies. They're all in like somewhere like 17s, and if you look at the default one, it's 17.73. So versus a 30% bet, you need what? How much? Versus heads up, you need to call like 77% of your range. You never like, there's, yeah, pretty much. You can't fold, like you have to call with 77% of your range. Yeah, right. So that means out of your 100% range, this is just 83%, right? So you're massively clearing your EV in position. However, if cutoff checks and button bets 30%, somehow the MDF seems to have just risen. So MDF is like the amount you should be like defending versus a bet, so that no one like over bluffs versus you. So if you start folding every bet, people basically are going to exploit you. So this seems to have like all of it is in like the 30s. It seems to have just risen. The entire MDF seems to have risen where 30 um, now out of position after in position bets 21 has to basically fold the 30% of his range on average. The answer is like 32, like default answer. Well, I just showed you a chart where it says 77% is your MDF, so you're not going to be able to clear your MDF because this is more like 70 68% of your range continues versus this. It's a massive 10% difference in clearing your MDF, so that's fine. And the reason is position. So we find a very basic tenet of poker that we all agree on, that position is important. Here we see that from position, because I swapped the ranges, didn't do much. It did lower this a little bit, but in positions got even lower because he's tighter. Now instead of 50 something percent, he's 38% or 35%, whatever the cutoff was. So it has basically the MDF has just automatically risen. Now it's very hard to clear your MDF, so like you fold, you can overfold cutoff versus button. Man, you can see why. Its position, button and position in general have two things going for them. Okay, button has one thing absolutely smashing going for it, that essentially out of position just doesn't have. And no exploitative poker player will ever say this, because they just don't. And I'm talking about the ones who don't like, who put like file solver in the bin kind of thing. I'm talking about those people. They will never be able to. They will tell you about like leveraging this like weak-minded players and like all of that. They'll never be able to tell you that when you have position, the things that are working for you are not leverage. You can leverage it for what? Well, out of position can leverage certain things. I can show you. You are in position, so what? They'll say like, okay, 3-bet in position this much. I mean, everyone says it's like 3-bet out of position like this. You don't see bet out of position that much. Why? Well, because position has this advantage. It can basically name its price for how it is going to see its showdown. If it's got a showdown sort of hand on, say like one overcard board, he's got sixes, cutoff checks, he can check back. On the flop, went to the next betting round, at the price he wanted to. Say on the turn, he improves or doesn't improve. Usually if it doesn't improve, you don't want to continue, but like, say, as in like if another overcard comes. But he also has his option of check raising, which will then make almost any card that comes on the turn a good card for him, other than board pairing cards. Now say this guy bets on the turn, like cutoff does, say he bets like 50% or whatever. Cool, just call. Now if he bets again, he probably has a good hand. You just like call one bet after calling pre, and you fold it. Maybe you can take it down the river and see. I think this would definitely be a call mostly. But on the river now, say out of position checks, he doesn't know, out of checking being like betting zero almost, right? You can say it's betting zero. In position just has this advantage of either checking with his like showdown range, so he can showdown cheaper. You can like just see the river, see showdown cheaper. That's awesome in poker, where you don't just make a good hand, uh, or he can like two bet a c bet. He can raise. He can bet in when check two. There's a lot of things he can do by, and that disrupts this out of positions, like wanting to go, uh, you know, check through to showdown. Now out of position does have some stuff he can do, like bombing the turn, kind of merging his turn and bet, uh, turn and river bets into one turn bet, so that uh, you know in position is more likely to check back. Also, but how, like, the thing is, this is 30 big blinds. It's so easy for in position versus facing a bet to just check raise jam versus that c bet. And I've said it again and I'll say it again, if it was for exploitative poker players, we wouldn't be raising. If exploitative poker, only exploitative poker, without any kind of like reference from bio, was the main strategy, winning strategy, raising would be out of the question. I'm talking about pre-flop opening, because we all know most first raises are wide. Exploitative poker players should 3-bet all of them. They should be pure 3-betting these. Yet we get to, even though because of GTO, game is drifting towards a little bit of limping and splitting ranges and stuff like that. Exponential players are not exploitative poker players are not doing that. Sorry, exponential has been on everyone's mouth so much. They're not the ones driving strategy. It's players who are actually putting in the work. And again, the misconception of GTO, which has existed in this world since Cortez and like recorded history, but has just generally still does. Stalin used to shoot his soldiers, all that stuff. It's nothing new. It got formalized by John von Neumann. Then the Nash equilibrium got made by John Nash. We're actually not using that. We're actually using a different one. I forget who the person was. In the end, it's only through a study of bio, which is not that hard, do you get to understand where you make mistakes, because everyone does not play every tournament perfectly. As long as you don't make blunders, the best way to not make blunders is to understand that everyone plays a hand distribution and actions dictate hand distribution. Previous video I already showed, when you have a very good hand, the EV of raising or calling a bet in position is not going to be much different, because it already has so much EV in it, like almost say like the nuts or something. However, bad hands will always have this tendency of like raising and blowing people off equity, just like that check raise versus that 20 big blind open who was supposed to like jam jack 10 offsuit on that 8-6-4 whatever that board was. Now people just don't do that, right? So now that is different from saying people are irrational. They're not irrational, they just don't underappreciate the amount of how low down you can go when it comes to defending in GTO. This is part 4. This is Grim Singh, Said When Flying.